I will call to order the December 14th, 2021 work session of the Pinehurst Village Council. We have completed our regular meeting and we'll move into the work session agenda. The first official item for brief discussion on the council is suggestions for potential future agenda items that we may want to discuss over the next month or two. Anybody have suggestions as to that? We have a list of things that are around, but if anybody wants to refresh that or add anything to it, we can do so right now for future consideration. Patrick?
You said for a month or two, so is that,
Well,
if that's the time frame, I don't have, or if we're going to look out to the end of the fiscal year, I'd have some things, but not in the next month or two. I think the usual suspect, shall we say, STRs, stormwater management. I mean, that's what I hear from people, and that's of nature. But downstream, I had some other things we can add. We discussed it another time or at this time.
I think on the issue of stormwater management, I think we're really moving ahead quite a lot on that, both for the current fiscal year, but into the future, but certainly based on our discussions last week. I do think that we need to sit down and get a team resources together on the STR issue. And Jeff and I have talked a little bit about this, and we need to figure out all the data we have, which is considerable right now. And Lydia's come upon a very interesting website that's supplying information about the other side of the coin, really the VRBOs and whatnot. Appreciate your sending that along. But I would like to get some sort of a working team together, Jeff.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Darren's been, in between other projects, he's been compiling a bunch of information and doing some analysis on this that he's been sharing with me too. So, I think we are in a position to start a meaningful discussion about that. We just got to figure out how to sequence it into the workload.
And Jeff, while we're on this topic, Darren and I got to go to an absolutely wonderful one-day presentation on short-term rentals at the School of Government last year. No, 2 years ago. I wish they would do it again.
Yeah.
But they had planners from, I wrote it down, Raleigh, Wilmington, and Asheville, either the city planner or the assistant city planner, talking about how they were dealing with it. And one of them, I think he was assistant planner from Raleigh, who talked about they did a focus group, bringing everybody in, all of the divergent interests, to hash through this and find something that would work. And my only point in bringing it up right now is, since we're talking about it, but would it make sense for us to contact Wilmington, Raleigh, and Asheville? Because 2 years ago, they had gone through this. So it seemed like rather than create the wheel, is there anything to be learned from talking with them? I don't know. And if it makes sense, I was thinking if it makes sense for Darren and me to get on the phone with those people and just listen to see.
So some of those approaches have been challenged in court already, and in Raleigh's case, they've already updated and they've got a new approach. But we've actually got those written documents. We've got what they have produced. So.
Okay. So we're not really recreating the wheel. We are working with them. Yeah, I wish they would do it again because it was outstanding. Okay, that's it.
I'll go back to a list of subjects that I had talked about over the last few months, perhaps for future items. They're not in my mind right now other than SCRs, and a couple of them have moved on. We'll hear about one of them tonight, the anniversary presentation. Pat, you talked about down the line. Do you want to, if you have some things on your mind, why don't we just list them out and then we'll have a chance to discuss how to move forward or when to move forward?
Yeah, I have two specific things I'd like to address. I don't believe they're necessarily have to be done in the next 3 months or even 6 months, but I'd like to see them addressed before the year's out. I'd like the council to consider amending our charter to allow for recall provisions for city members of the council. And obviously, we don't also have to reinvent the wheel here. There are 16 communities within the state of North Carolina that have amended their charter that way. So we should get the best and the brightest, look at it, discuss it, evaluate the pros and cons, and then take appropriate action. And the same thing I'd like to do along the lines of the costs for consultants. I've talked in the past when I was a candidate and not a council member, about being sure that the costs on any consulting contracts were appropriately displayed on the document that we receive from a consultant. I don't think we need to, I don't know if we need a resolution or anything, or it's one of those ministerial policies that can be set, but I do think it's something I'd like us to look at again sometime this year. So maybe I'll
Okay.
defer to Jeff of what staff thinks needs to be done in that area to lay some groundwork, but I have no sense of urgency other than this year.
Well, we'll list them down as we do with the others and
Okay.
get a priority set to discuss those.
Those are the only two items. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other items to bring forward, Jane?
With respect to stormwater management, I'd be interested to understand better the scope of the study that we're working on now. Because I don't think we've seen the,
Talking about the work we
I
just
think we can
approved.
just circulate that document back to you. Yeah,
right,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
okay.
I'd be interested to, I think we've talked about this a little bit too, work with Three Rivers Land Trust and so forth on steps that might be taken to preserve land in the ETJ. We just get some idea of the options that might be available. And then Focus Area 5, my favorite one.
Well, I think on Focus Area 5, Darren's already working on that. We talked about it last week, right?
Is he working
It's
on
going to
it?
come forward at some point here, I thought.
I think he's going to fold it in.
Going
When?
to
This
fold it into
Area
the
5
small
is
area
an-
plans?
Is an OFI for 2023 right now.
Right, okay. Okay, that's right, yeah. Or is he going to discuss that during the small area plan presentations? Probably not.
We've always said that we would like to use the results of the small area plan
I'll put that.
to inform our approach to Focus Area 5.
Okay. Jeff Morgan, any suggestions?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so those are issues to bring forward and compare to the list we already have. All right, moving on to agenda item number 3, the meeting schedule for 2022. That's
Kelly's going to bring that up for you.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, Kelly, this is the same approach we took for this last year, so no changes are reflected in this document. I don't know if you all have some different desires for how we do this in the coming,
Still the second and fourth Tuesdays, 4:30.
with the exception of
extra meetings in-
August, November, and December.
Right.
Just a general question, how often do you call a special meeting?
As
Outside?
needed.
No, I know, but
I think
how many happened
15
last
of
year?
them.
So what's going on?
Sometimes we do them 3 times a week, sometimes we don't do them once every 6 months.
My calendar flexible, I just
know.
didn't know if it's, I don't recall a lot of those special meetings, or at least reading
Oh,
about
I really do try to focus everything on the second, fourth Tuesdays, but there are times when it just isn't appropriate or we need to work
I'm
on
not
something. So,
advocating one way or
It
the other. I'm
it
just
is
trying-
usually, I mean, most of our special meeting activity over the past couple of years has been focused on big projects like negotiating the USGA contract,
Library.
the library needs assessment,
Is a special meeting, by the very phrase special, is it closed to the public or is it open?
it's open.
It's open, thank you.
A special meeting can be closed,
Like any other.
but yeah, if it meets the requirements for being closed.
Thank you.
These ones are regular,
yeah,
Yeah,
and
these
anything
are,
else is special.
that's right. And actually, Kelly and Jeff, every time we see this list of the council meetings, attached to it are the meeting schedules for all the other committees and commissions throughout the village. So we're actually approving the whole thing, are we not? But the important part is the council meeting schedule for ourselves. All right. I didn't see any questions on the schedule for the coming year, so I'll assume we're all set with that.
Are council members either encouraged or allowed, whatever, to attend any of these other meetings if they So like to,
Certainly can,
Yes.
yes.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, and in fact, we'll touch on that a little bit when we get into the partners and collaborators list momentarily. Yes, and in fact, one of the reasons that the list of times for these other committees is there is to let you know where it is. It's on the website, it's also posted inside Village Hall, all these
Yeah.
meetings. Can you speak up a little bit, Kelly, or come over here? Thank you.
I'm sorry, my comment to that is, as you know, if more than a majority of the council members are going to plan to attend that, I do need to advertise that.
Right,
That would be-
Okay.
Which you do for NAC.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly.
Kind of an abundance caution thing there. Sometimes, there have been times in the past where some council members have expressed a concern or a desire to not present the perception that they're exerting undue influence, particularly in HPC and BOA proceedings. There's nothing that statutorily that limits you from going to attend those meetings. I throw that out there in case you are concerned about that perception as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point. And to take those two commissions actually, their meetings are live streamed, so you can attend it by watching
Yeah.
from somewhere else.
Which is what I do, because I'd heard about that concern.
Right.
And so I just, especially if you pay attention to their agenda, you'll see something that might be really, we're going to be looking at later. And I think the HPC and planning, P&Z do a phenomenal job of reviewing those projects. So it's helpful to hear their comments streamed.
Yeah. Okay, so we are approving the council schedule for 2022 as posted. We'll move on into the next item, which is the partners and collaborators list. Now, Kelly's going to have to bring this up because we just sort of polished it up this afternoon. And Jeff and I have reviewed this over the last few days. And I'm going to go down the items a little bit here, but make a couple of observations. What I tried to do in the last couple of years, and want to make sure we do even more of in the next couple of years, is to make sure, even with some of the key partners and collaborators, that one council member or the other may be the liaison for, and especially for those where I'm involved, because as mayor, I should be in attendance at a meeting, or I have a voting obligation at the meeting. I want to make sure that we're rotating other council members into those meetings, so we always have at least two members of the council, myself and someone else, available to attend those meetings along with staff. So that was one of the objectives here, to make it a little more clear in the assignments, and also where it's not necessary, but even if it's helpful, to have two people working on a committee, a liaison, to have one clearly designated and to involve others as may be helpful. So take a look for a moment here. Jeff Morgan, I would say, we're trying very much to identify contacts for you that would either have evening meetings or meetings by Zoom, which would be helpful, I think, to your overall scheduling. And again, your availability along with the other council members will be sought whenever practical. And I think also, Jeff, just taking you first here, we thought obviously that any contact or work we're potentially doing with First Health, that would be a great alignment for you if you're available for that. So we wanted to work on that as well. There have been a couple of changes from the earlier responsibilities, but we've tried to bring in Patrick and Jeff into those that were being vacated, or move a few things around where I thought it was necessary to do that, especially in Pat's role as Mayor Pro Tem. So that's the plan. What questions or comments might you have? And can everybody see it all right? We've tried to bring it up here.
John, didn't we last year look at Moore County schools and wonder whether we needed anybody there? Do y'all remember this discussion?
We did talk about that. In fact, wait a minute, what do we,
Moore County schools, temporary school site, well, that's no more.
I think, my own view is we should have somebody assigned to that. In this case, it's Jeff, again, because of the potential for evening meetings there. They're not always meeting that way. But to just keep track of what's going on there, I feel that it's something we need to be aware of. We don't have some of the decision-making, as has been made very clear in the past about, things that they're doing with respect to schools and districting and all this sort of thing. But, it's an important part of our community. The new elementary school is here. We've had the school in our presence for, 80 years or so. And it just seemed to me that there was a reason to have some named contact there in the future.
I agree with both points. I think that, given the history of our relationships, I think it's an as-needed type of a thing.
Yes.
Certainly, the temporary school site was a big deal for us. We do collaborate in Parks and Recreation programs, but our Parks and Recreation staff kind of handles that. Redistricting is a big thing when it comes around, and there may be other examples like that. So I would suggest that, Jeff or whoever winds up with this liaison opportunity, the best approach might just be to try to stay abreast of what's on their agendas and what's going on, and as needed.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to phrase that.
Or let the council
And
know
many
there's
of
something
these,
going
yeah.
on and help us to, stay in front of things, so.
I think as needed is
Yeah.
the right description there, for sure. Now, this will all be emailed out to everybody, so you'll have a copy momentarily if whenever we finish this. But anyway, that's the framework. And again, my desire is to have any one of you be involved in some of the partners and collaborators that I may be responsible for, but it's certainly going to include another council member in any meetings that are held on a rotating basis, so everybody has the ability to know something about those partners and collaborators, not just the mayor. I like to know that the resort or the hospital or others will know some, if not all of you, as they know certain members of the staff or me. Any further questions or comments or ideas?
Yeah, just a general question. Is there any, for lack of a better word, summit where Moore County brings sort of all the communities together and they have some discussion? These all make sense to me. I'm not discussing this. I'm just trying to learn if there's something else institutionally that exists as a forum for communication within the county.
Not in the last few years. If you're talking about a situation where the county commissioners might want to have all representatives from all the municipalities, 11 of us in Moore County together?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't recall that happening
Have
very
been,
often,
they
Jeff.
come up occasionally. For example, you may recall recently they brought together leadership from across the county as they were deliberating the highway overlay topic, because they wanted to make sure everybody was involved in that decision-making process. And there have been other examples like that over the last several years. But they figure out when that's going to be, and they send out the invites and.
It's on an ad hoc basis. They'll
Yeah,
determine.
Right.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
another example would be the occupancy tax. Well, there was at least one
Occupancy tax
meeting.
was another example.
There was
yeah.
one meeting, it's almost
Yeah.
2 years ago, though, now,
Yeah.
when the occupancy tax was being discussed initially by the CVB and the commissioners and therefore the municipalities in the county. And they did have a meeting where representatives from each of the towns could speak to the commissioners about their view of the tax. So something like that could occur again. And I think the other one, Moore County Transportation Committee, the reason I'm assigned to that is that there's a voting member involved, and that's usually the mayor of the town. But that's another group that doesn't meet very often, but when they do, it's pretty much the whole county
Every
being there,
community
but
in
it's
the-
not
yeah.
sponsored by the commissioners. Well, I guess it is in the end, but it's the committee. Jane?
And they do also have a planning retreat in January where they go through all the stuff that they're doing. And it's open to the public the way ours is. And it's up in Carthage, and you can go up and hear what they're, yeah.
And Jane has attended and corresponded, in fact, on some items such as the overlay plans in the past.
On that same
for-
theme,
Jeff?
I like the idea of being able to meet with folks from other townships and things like that. Whether it's a, set thing where all of us are meeting and say, hey, let's do this on a semi-annual basis and just get together because we're part of Moore County, or a social type of thing associated with it. But when you're able to banter ideas about and talk about problems, when you break bread, it seems to make things work better.
Well, now, having said that, Councilman Morgan, Triangle J COG is your opportunity for that. Jeff, explain exactly what that is, because it's a bit of a hybrid organization that Jeff should know about.
Yeah, there are several councils of government across across North Carolina. All of North Carolina has been divided up into these geographic regions consisting of several counties. And, these are all rural planning organizations. Our alignment is with Triangle JCOG. That's counties from Moore County and then moving up north toward the Triangle area.
That's,
And they fill a lot of gaps. They're a service to all of our local governments. Probably most useful for small communities that don't have the resources to do everything themselves. But they're a service to all of us, and it's a good opportunity to collaborate among other local governments, and where the opportunities present, also ask them for help on stuff. For example, they helped us put together the Tri-Cities framework, and they facilitate that those meetings for us and the agendas and all that stuff.
Yeah. And Triangle JCOG generally, I believe, meets by Zoom, or at least anybody who's
I
in
think
it
they
can
are.
participate by Zoom.
And they're evening meetings as well, so.
Evenings and by Zoom, yeah.
And there's not an absolute requirement to attend. They like to have a quorum of present, as all meetings should have, but it's an opportunity.
As I learned in college, thank you for this opportunity to excel.
Sorry, say again?
I said, as I learned in college, thank you for this opportunity to excel.
May I have another?
Oh, what else? Oh, Lydia, on the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the intention there is I'll just be a backup for you if you're not able to attend a meeting. And otherwise,
Yeah, I
carry on.
really enjoy going to those meetings. You learn a lot, so you can count on me every time. In
I'm
fact, I
sure
think the
you'll be
next
there.
one is on my calendar already, if you want it.
okay. So is this a good framework then to move forward? And again, for Pat and Jeff, the council reports at the start of every regular meeting is the time when, if you've attended or visited with one of these assignments or not, or another, that would be your time to make some brief comments about what the meeting was about, or anything that you want to bring back to the council that might require our action from those partners, collaborators, and committees. Okay? All right, so we'll move on with that. And Kelly, you can circulate that then as soon as you can. We're going to get into item number 6 in just a second, but is there any other work session business to discuss tonight? Pat, you had one inquiry this afternoon you'd made about I'll call it the statistical handbook for Pinehurst, Aberdeen, and Southern Pines.
the fact sheet I was looking towards seeing developed. Sure, I can discuss it. My concept and objective behind this is to really have a handy, at a fingertips, couple of sides of a piece of paper that just captures facts, public information, not non-public information, regarding our Pinehurst and its two prominent neighbors, with a lot of things that I would consider educational, at least to me, because what I find myself doing is I cannot count on my memory. I don't know if this gets worse from time to time, but I also don't want to nickel and dime subject matter experts about stuff when I'm looking for things. And so the action triggering event for me for this was when one of my early briefings, and I just thought out loud in a meeting of what's the amount of square miles between us and then what's it in Southern Pines? And I was in there with Doug in that meeting, and we both said, oh, Southern Pines must be much bigger. And then we just went on. I said, well, if you get a chance, look it up. And about 5 minutes later or something, he had done his Googling, and it turns out we were almost identical, 17.3 square miles versus 17.2 square miles of Southern Pines. Now, maybe everybody else sort of knew that, but instinctively, I had the exact opposite idea. I thought they had all this square miles. I knew we were bigger population-wise, because that's in the paper a lot. And so that got me thinking about, geez, what other comparisons from an informational standpoint would I find handy, especially now that I might be in Tri-City events, so I know who I'm talking to as to what does their community look like in addition to what does our community look like. I don't know how many miles of paved roads we have in Pinehurst. I didn't know until the other day. I mentioned it today. Jeff was in a meeting I had with the police chief about traffic tickets. And I shared with them that I was at a couple of small sort of dinner engagements, and I would ask people, how many traffic tickets do you think Pinehurst writes every year? And it went from the extreme of 2 to 3 to 1,000. That's among our citizens. Now, I don't know where I would have been. I happen to know the information because I had gotten it earlier from the police chief. But I just find that data, hard data, is very useful for me in sketching out different options and thoughts in my mind rather than searching for things that I need to get handy to help me have a little better concept of what's going on. So and the way I surfaced it is I don't have the perfect idea of a work product. I would defer to staff, but my vision is a two-sided, my vision is because I've seen this before, the two-sided piece of paper, no more than that, with some of the sort of key indicators or data points that are not guesses. I used to guess also that Southern Pines was bigger than our population until I started to read in the pilot about how we were a bigger community. Now, again, people may be closer to that than I am or have been, but I like knowing data. I enjoy it, I absorb it, and so that was my purpose, and I'm not in any hurry to have this before the first Tri-Cities meeting. And like I say, I will defer to staff. Staff generally know how they like to put things together, where their data is. They have it up here. They have it at their fingertips. I'm just saying, as a council member, I don't. It's not where I've sort of spent my time.
Some we do and some we don't. I mean, for example, you asked for comparisons of traffic tickets across the Tri-Cities. I'm not sure how that would be useful, but that's information we don't have. So.
Well, if we can't obtain information or if it's not public, I don't want to do that. But if it's something about just acquiring it.
I guess what just humor me here. How would a comparison of traffic tickets between Pinehurst, Southern Pines, and Aberdeen be useful?
Just the knowledge of it to me is helpful as I keep these three communities in mind.
I think we've got to be careful in this one. In my profession, you don't ever run a test or pursue specific information unless you're going to do something with it. Reason for that's because It costs money to do it. There's a tax associated with time, that kind of thing. Also, it can cloud the picture because you end up spending time on other things that maybe are really not pertinent for things. I apply that somewhat here, and I recognize it's different. We're not doing medicine here. I do this differently. But I do think it's appropriate that when we're tasking staff out, that there has to be a purpose for it. What are we going to use it for? Okay? And that's not only just being a good steward of the taxpayer's dollar here, it's also being respectful to the staff.
Well, my purpose precisely is to have information and data like this at my fingertips, so I don't have to bother staff on a regular basis. Not because I don't like interacting with them, but because I just don't feel that that's a good use of my time or theirs.
Pat, that's kind of what I'm pushing back on a little bit, though. Okay, just to say you've got it at your fingertips.
Yes.
Like it's the Moore County Almanac or the Pinehurst Almanac that's on there. Again, there's a lot of data that is going to be spent or a lot of that is collected, time that's being spent, that in reality may have no use.
I'm not trying to get an almanac. I'm trying to get a front and a back piece of paper.
Okay.
That's
I hear what you're saying.
That's what
I don't want to get into the slippery slope here. We're starting to ask for stuff, and so you've got your two-sided thing. I've got my two-sided thing. Lydia gets her two-sided
It wouldn't
thing.
be just mine. It would, I mean.
Do you understand my point, though?
Yeah.
Unless there's a purpose for the data, okay, and you know what that purpose is. So when we asked for data in our retreat, we talked about information on the growth of short-term rentals. I think we're going to use that information. Okay, I think it's very productive for us to do it. So before we task out the staff just to do that, because quite frankly, I'm not sure, knowing that 17.3 square miles of Pinehurst versus 17.2 square miles of Southern Pines is going to affect many of our decisions on here.
No,
So-
but
so-
it may not affect a single decision, but it'll make me, I believe, a more knowledgeable council member about and being situationally aware of what is around me. And to me, that's part of the role I see as an elected official, that basic situational awareness, so I don't fly blind into some meeting or discussion and I'm hit in the face with, oh gosh, I didn't know that fact.
I love knowledge. I love the idea there. Next question I'm going to say, though, is that something that you should look up maybe instead of having the staff do it?
Well, the staff looked
Well,
up.
there may
in a
be
few
sources of that
minutes.
available that the staff know about it.
Yeah, I think
It's
this-
some easy way. I don't know, Jeff.
My
That's a
hunch
good
is the
point.
staff knows a lot of it. I'm not asking for anything that is, one, not public information or easily obtainable.
And I'm not trying to be real argumentative. My point is, I think we might get into a slippery slope here on this stuff, okay?
I know.
So I think for the information we're asking from the staff, there ought to be a reason why we're asking for it, because it does task them out from other things that are going on, okay? Something that's maybe easy, something maybe, give it instantly. Let's just be judicious in what we're asking for.
I think we should be. And if I thought it was going to be a burden on the staff, I wouldn't ask for it.
I
Lydia,
can
did
only
you-
say,
Lydia?
in the past 2 years, if anybody has a question, anybody in the public has a question, I can reach out to a staff member and get an answer like that to that particular question. I'm just trying to think what kind of questions that I've gotten over the past 2 years would fill up the front and the back page of a sheet of paper. And I can't think of that many questions I've gotten that I couldn't get an immediate answer for staff. I don't think it would even fill up one side of a piece of paper.
All it would take, but,
But I
and
can-
it's
I
not
can-
only, it's addition to questions I might anticipate or that I get from constituents, but it's also to satisfy my thirst for the knowledge about the environment I live in and work in. That's what put it on my radar screen, nothing else. So I just.
Jane, did you have any thought on that?
I think it's a good idea to have a background, for all of us to have a background. And the background that I have, such as I have, is largely, was started by my own research before I was ever on council on various projects and looking stuff up on the county website, on the village website. We get an awful lot of that background at our planning retreat. And in the materials, it does give us a lot of demographics and so forth. And whenever we do a study on something, whether it's a library or whatever else, those kinds of statistics are flushed out for us. And we're compared not just to Southern Pines and Aberdeen, but to other towns around the state that are more like Pinehurst. My favorite is Cornelius, which is north of Charlotte, and it's on a big lake, Lake Norman, so it has this sort of a resort thing going on. It's about the same size we are, well-to-do town. So,
I can tell, I never heard of Cornelius until the retreat.
Well,
So I'm just.
this is your
full-
chance.
Will,
Full,
so
It's in your mind
there
now.
are-
Full
there
disclosure.
are-
among many
But
other places.
I think it's good to want to know. I'd
I
like to
do.
know
I went and
more
Googled it when I got home.
about, I mean, I have read the Aberdeen PDO. I did, when they came out with a new one a year or two ago, to see what they were doing. That's how I learned about the Green Growth Toolbox, which then I went to a day-long thing of it at the Weymouth Center. But it, you know, I think it's helpful to have that kind of background.
I do think we get a lot of this, as Jane was saying, in the staff reports for the different projects that they come to us to approve. And so I think a lot of this information is something we just absorb. I mean, I can't tell you, if you were to ask me one question, Pat, I don't know that I'd have an immediate answer to some of these facts right now, but I know it comes out, you know, in all the things that we receive. And maybe as Lydia was saying, it may turn out to be one side of a piece of paper rather than two. But I like your analogy of it. You're trying to keep it succinct and direct.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The comp plan has a lot of those
The comp plan
statistics in it.
has,
And other
Comparative
towns' comp
information.
plans, usually at the beginning, they have an introductory section with some of that stuff in it.
Pat, I wonder if, I don't sense your overwhelming support to pursue this directly. However, I'd be interested to know the key pieces of information that you think you want. And then we can talk about where it might already be, or if it is something we don't know, maybe it's a few things rather than many things we could ask the staff to do or help us find. But I'll be happy to liaise with you a bit on that. But I think we need to figure out what are the key categories that you'd want addressed, and maybe it's already around pretty easy to find. And you wouldn't know that yet, and that's fine. And Jeff or other staff can direct us as we, if there is another resource for it, for what we have. So let's postpone any final decision on that, but I don't sense a lot of support for it as
I'm
in
fine
that
with that.
concept.
I'm fine
Okay?
with
All right. Let's move on to item number 6 on the work session, anniversary celebration update. And I think Kristen is here and Doug to lead us through that. There was some material in the work session package. I've had the chance to work with Kristen and Doug a little bit on this since, I guess, early November or late October, perhaps. And I'm impressed, as always, by the amount of the initiative and the amount of information that's already been put together in a pretty short period of time. But this is an important review tonight, and we need to give the staff some direction on a couple of items, more than a couple items here. So, Kristen, Doug?
So I will just start off by saying no one parties better than Kristen. So that's why she's involved in this. She's going to do a great job.
There's more to that story.
There is, actually, but thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll make one other
Do I
comment.
think?
I think in maybe the second discussion that the three of us had, we did include 2 representatives from the resort, particularly, well, on the one hand, to make them aware of what we're planning to do and would be presenting to council to get direction on, but also to consider that with respect to Mr. Ross on the one hand, Mr. Olmstead on the other, they, the resort, probably had more interest in some of the things we might do with Donald Ross. And I think their answer to that was yes. So there's probably some material in here about Donald Ross that isn't here because it's with the resort to percolate along to discuss, and we'll be meeting with them about that. So we'll proceed, Kristen, to talk about some of your thoughts and get council's reaction.
Yeah, I think what our goal here is we want to provide a way for residents to find out more about who Mr. Olmstead and Mr. Ross are. And it's a great way to celebrate kind of the heritage of our community. So that's a way we want to get out there, and we kind of want to do it in a way that, you know, if you're not real big into reading about history, it'll be something that will be of interest to people. Maybe even kids might get involved and enjoy it. So we are going to partner with a couple of other groups that are kind of already in process. So there is a nationwide Olmstead group that's celebrating his 200th birthday. That is more, we're just going to kind of put our events on their website, and they kind of will be broadcasted, advertised on that. But then there's also more local Donald Ross Society that will use as we need experts and as we need content matter, we can reach out to them and find out additional information. Overall, we're kind of thinking that we're going to piggyback on some of our already existing events that are in the community that the village is already producing. One, that saves us a lot of money, but also saves us some effort. But then we're also able to kind of have this come up over and over again throughout the year. So it's not a like one-time thing, but we're able to see it over and over again and kind of get the word out again. On the thing that was included in the packet, we had a few ideas. I'll go through that, or Kristen can jump in as well.
If you don't,
Go ahead.
If I can, please. Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for giving an overview. Earlier, when the gentleman spoke, I think I had my script planned out of what I was going to say, and it was a really good refresher or reminder that our community was not built by 2 gentlemen, 3 gentlemen, by 1 person. It was a collaborative effort, and that's why we are so charming and vibrant. I think everyone knows I'm new to the community, and so is Doug and some of our other managers in the village. And one of the things that struck me when I talked to all of them, and my response too in my interviews, was there's just something about Pinehurst. There's just something special. And so being able to dive in as a new person on some of this history has really helped me understand our vision and our mission. And I think that this has been a great opportunity. I think every new employee and new resident should have to do some kind of exercise like we've had to do, because it's really opened my eyes on why Pinehurst is special, and it's not because of 1 person. So I'm glad that Mr. Farrell, I believe is his name, brought that up in public comment. And any time that I can celebrate, I will, especially women in sports. And so I think that that's something that that we can look at in collaborating with some of these celebrations. So first, it's 2 different days. So how do we merge those into a seamless collaborative event? So some of the things that Doug and I and the mayor and the village have talked, or the resort has talked through, educate through storytelling and through experiences. Not everyone loves history, but the experience that you might be able to have with a Donald Ross actor doing a walking history, a gentleman showing up at a concert on Live After 5 dressed up like Donald Ross is going to pique some interest. So being able to tell that story to across generations will help people like me understand what's so special, give us something tangible to understand why the village is so special. So one of the things that we were thinking about doing is a traveling display. It's a passive display, so no staff time would go into having something. And if you'll look to my right, I brought this tonight because I've tried to explain it to people, and I don't think that I've done a very good job of communicating what exactly it looks like. So tonight, this came in last night. It's a recruitment focus for our first responders. But it's easy to assemble. One person snaps it up, and it can travel through all different locations around our community. It can have QR codes where people can scan to go to a website to find out more information. So that's one of our ideas that's easy, and it can go anywhere.
Yeah, like it can be at all of our events. It could go in the schools, the library, out here in the Assembly Hall foyer. So, yeah.
And it can be a catapult for a discussion item, if you will, or it can just be a passive, beautiful display that's located within our village and outside of our village, because I think that you all know that there's a lot of people celebrating a lot of events this year. 2022 is the year, feel it in our bones, that we're not going to have COVID, and it's going to be a great year. But the Women's Exchange, is celebrating their 100th year. Also, Weymouth is celebrating the Boyd Home as their 100th year. If you haven't been out there, highly suggest it. Doug and I got the 50-cent tour. It's a lovely location, and they have challenged their staff to do 100 events for the year. We are not going to do that. But what we might be able to do is partner and collaborate with them on some of their events that they might have, the more history events, the book readings, the speaker events that they have. That's something that we might be able to collaborate with them on, and vice versa, have them at some of our events where they can talk about the importance of the Boyd Home. And
Quick suggestion that we, where it says other opportunities, we ought to include the Tufts Archives.
absolutely. So the Tufts Archives,
It's not listed, and I couldn't find it in the report.
this document is a living, working document. So sometimes when I use
Let it live.
Given Memorial Library, I interchange those two sometimes. But Audrey is on board with us to produce some activities throughout the year. And the Tufts Archives does not have a lot on Olmstead per se, but that's an opportunity for the Ross
Absolutely.
celebrations that we have going on. So Given Memorial Library, of course, and the Tufts Archive, and then the motoring, the Sandhills motoring. So any event that we have in the village that we are a participant of, we're going to have some kind of presence with these types of banners and things.
Kristen, I think
yes.
on this date list or event list, I think when when Doug and you and I talked last week, we were questioning in our own minds whether Easter was an event to use for the Ross Olmstead promotions, and we were kind of up in the air about that, not necessarily feeling that was
And I think we want to make sure that everything that we do is intentional, and that it translates to our intended audience. I do think that there's an opportunity with the Easter egg hunt to talk to our children about the importance of public spaces. Like Olmsted's vision is public spaces for all people.
That's a good point.
So
yeah.
I think that there's places that we can make it genuine and intentional, and whether that's coloring contest or Lego builds or whatever that is. That's something that the staff can work on. But I do think there's opportunities at every event to make it specific to that audience.
Okay. And Lydia, as we go through here, you'll recognize some of the thoughts and ideas from your own work on Olmsted over the last a year ago or so, which they've worked into this, and I'm sure you'll have some helpful comments on that. Kristen?
We have a long list of names that I'm not going to call
Yeah.
out tonight. You've given us so many resources to reach out to. We've got a lot of subject matter experts in our area about these two gentlemen and about our history, but I find that, especially with our historic designation, that it is important that we acknowledge the contributions made by these two gentlemen. So moving down the list, I don't know where we are on if you can scroll down to, did Allie leave us? No, there she is. I just can't see her. Oh, the banner stands. So the light pole banners, something easy that we can do. So see, there's the example that I was trying to get across on this passive traveling display, and it just was not translating well. So now that we have one and it's in real life. Light pole banners that we can use, and of course, I picked this one because that is the mayor's hometown. It was not a coincidence. It was really a coincidence. But that's just an example of the light pole banners that we can do throughout the year to celebrate these two gentlemen. And I will back up, the Olmstead 200 already has logos, they already have marketing materials that we can use. I think we don't need to use all of them. There's some that don't quite fit. They're a little bit more modern in feel, but there are some main logos, typefaces that I think translate, that complement the Village of Pinehurst brand that we can use. Same with Donald Ross. The Pinehurst Resort is graciously offered their graphic design team to help develop what that looks like. And we're collaborating with them on the logo for the Donald Ross. And then another thing that we're collaborating with the Pinehurst Resort on are this concept of various 3-minute video clips that feature subject matter experts in front of, let's say, the statue and Village Center. Short 3-minute clips that would be used on every platform we have, our website, social media. The resort offered to play them on their TVs that are in the lobby areas. Schools, I can reach out, partner with them. I know they have their morning TV, what's going on today. So there might be an opportunity to get in the elementary school, and then also, but that content would need to be generated for that audience, of course. But Pinehurst Resort has volunteered their production team to help me create these video clips along with some of our folks in the community that are subject matter experts. And then, keep scrolling.
What is VOPTV?
That's my brainstorming. That was, yes, you heard it here first. That was just my brainstorming. That has nothing, introducing the video clips. But
Broadband streaming service.
yes, we're starting a television station. So I took that from the small clips idea came from a previous position in Commemorative County. We did historical moments. We actually had a television station, so we had a lot more videos and a lot more production capability. But they were the historical moments far beyond most popular national award-winning content. People love learning about, or they loved these little small clips, little small doses. And I know we've got some veterans, so y'all know what AFN and all the commercials that come up in between are, because they can't do Armed Forces Network television, so you can't do regular commercials selling Tide. So they would have these like, today in history and wherever. So that's kind of the same concept, just these small bite-sized pieces that even those that detest history can sit through and watch and learn something from. And then we already talked about collaborating or piggybacking on a lot of our events that we're already going to have. These don't play, unfortunately, but there's animation out there that's free where you can take the headshot of historical figure or anyone. If you've got a family member and you really want to scare them and bring back a relative, you can do that. And they will have facial movements, and it just, I don't know, it's interesting. I enjoy seeing what Donald Ross would have looked like in moving and real life animation. And then we talked with the resort also about some commemorative merchandise, and we have our Welcome Center where we have logoed and brand merchandise. So we were just throwing around some ideas about having something special that folks could purchase. They've got some ideas that might be a little bit in a different price range that might be sold at the resort versus in our welcome center, but something easy that we can do and I think would be really charming is the flat cap Donald Ross. But also some stationery and some wooden pencils that are, the Olmstead 200 Association is actually selling. So that might be something that we can do as well.
I don't want to tell you that you missed something, but we had the Olmstead Clean Up Day,
Oh,
which
yes.
is very near Earth Day, so we're thinking that would be an appropriate time for us to get out and have a community cleanup, and the resort said they would have all their employees come and help out. I haven't actually pitched this to Jeff yet, but I think he would
Here
be
it
willing
goes.
to let some of our town or village employees go out there and help with the cleanup. So
Thank you. That
that'd be
was
fun.
a big part of the collaboration with the resort and how they were trying to think of ways that they could, and it would make sense, celebrate Olmsted, because they're primarily focused on Donald Ross's celebration. But the Olmstead Clean Up Day would be perfect and a great collaborative event between us and the resort. Get staff to, intermingle and get to know each other, and also invite some of the other larger employers, First Health, for instance. And it's April 26th, is his birthday, and that is also near Earth Day, as Doug mentioned. But it's also a Tuesday, and the resort said that that's the best day that they could have staff leave for a couple hours during the day and be able to participate with us in cleaning up our public spaces. And that ties in directly with Olmsted's vision to share. Now it's our responsibility to share these public spaces and keep them looking nice. So thank you for bringing that up. So I've got some SMART goals. I don't want to bore you with that. That's part of my communications plan and some of my expected challenges, or our expected challenges, some talking points that I've provided for you all. I respect the fact that you love data and you like it to be at your fingertips, so I've provided 3 talking points for council. And the reason I did that is because on your table, you will see
That's where that came from. Okay.
a pack of pens.
Thank you.
Save the best for last. These are Village of Pinehurst pens, and I'm going to challenge you all to keep one. That's the easy part. But then the remaining 5 go to someone you meet in the community, someone new, and you can talk about these celebrations that are upcoming and hand them a pen. And no, it can't be your dog that you give your pen to or your family. Yes, there's 6 pens, so keep one and then give the other 5, I did count that, yes, 5 out to community members that you meet and talk about these great things that we have coming up in 2022.
So you're suggesting we should be doing that soon, I would say, post January 1st or something, but.
Sure, if you're
Not
out at a
wait.
holiday celebration, at an event, why not? There's a lot to be planned still, but it's never too late to start talking about a party.
Hey, that sells one of my Christmas gifts right there.
Yeah.
I'm cheap.
No regifting.
Good idea.
Not.
Now leave out anything else.
Just one other idea we have talked about is doing an author series at the library.
Yes, correct.
That's something that we'll work with Audrey on.
You said an authors
Yeah.
series, okay.
The resort provided us with the name of the author that,
The book, Chris Bowie, whom I'm in touch with, actually I was working on that with the resort, and as Doug and I chatted the other day, I think Chris Bowie, the author of a very recent book on Donald Ross, quite a extensive volume, is willing to help write some things that would be part of our publicity. Maybe to do a video, to read something along the lines of what you were talking about there, a short video. And so we'll work that out with him.
right.
And he's reasonably easy to contact
Right.
in the area here.
And then for Mr. Ross's birthday, unfortunately, it's the day, or fortunately, it's the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as easy to do something on that day like it was for Mr. Olmstead, but we are a golf community, and I think that there are plenty of opportunities throughout the year for us to share that celebration. And who only wants to celebrate their birthday on one day? Just drag it out.
I told you she likes parties.
Maybe we can coordinate it with the blessing of the hounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Donald Ross. I do have two minor questions. Have we thought about engaging the Golf Channel? Donald Ross is a big deal. I mean, I would think that they might have a real interest. I don't have a connection there or anything, but I would put the Golf Channel down. And on the second side of that equation, I would also try to reach out to the History Channel, because this is sort of a unique situation of these 3 anniversaries coming together all at once. And they are both, in the case of Ross and Olmstead, pretty large figures historically, certainly in the, obviously, development of Pinehurst, but in the case of Ross, to the 400 golf courses that are, his offspring, and in Olmstead, the parks that he's so known for. So if we can light the right fuse there, we may have some real cheerleaders that would want to come down and do a story.
Absolutely. I know that there is a documentary that has already been completed, and they're pitching networks right now, so on Donald Ross specifically. But I don't know where that's going to end up or where our role would be in that, but I'm always looking for national television spotlight to highlight our community.
So, a documentary on Donald Ross.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that. And do we know who's doing it? Have you researched?
There's sneak peeks on YouTube, but they're keeping it pretty quiet because they want a network to come in and purchase it.
Right.
That's actually where my research started, was with the sneak peeks on the documentary, but I'll find out who it is.
And our contacts at the Donald Ross Society may know that. We know also that what did we find out a month ago, that the family of Donald Ross sold some rights, maybe for this movie, I'm not sure. Sold some rights to the name.
To the,
And no, that's the Donald Ross Sportswear, the sportswear.
Correct.
That's where the local, you're getting all the advertising from Donald Ross Sportswear in the last month? I did.
Yes.
All the time.
It's because I'm doing all this research.
Down in Aberdeen, and anyway. Yeah, so that's right. They're the ones that got the rights to use their name on the textiles and whatnot that they're producing, the clothing. So this is yet another opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, maybe perhaps we should formally send a letter to Scotland, to Mr. Ross's hometown.
I can hand deliver it.
Okay, oh, well, that's way, I know you're overworked, so I don't want you to have to do that. But
I have a way of doing that. I
Okay.
think we can make direct contact with Dornoch.
I think that would
if we
be,
wanted to.
you know,
Yep. Did we talk, we
thousand
didn't talk
flowers
about that
bloom.
yet. But
We did talk about that, getting his hometown involved.
Right. Right. Okay, let's make sure I follow up on that. Okay.
I have just 3 points, maybe 4 points. Number one, Olmstead does not have an A in it.
I know it does not. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
told Natalie like a
Yes.
year or so ago, I said, purge the A from Olmstead
I
everywhere it
know.
exists.
Well, and it's funny because it's spelled
But one-
correctly some places and some places
Yeah.
it's not.
John and I had the pleasure of speaking with an Olmstead expert named Spencer Tennell.
Right.
He
Yes.
is, have you spoken with him? Or you found him?
He's on my list.
Okay, good. Well, who knows, we might need him when we hear from the Park Service again, but he is fascinating. And, if it turns out we need him, I can see him being a speaker at the library, at the archives.
Atlanta.
I've
He's
got
in
his
Atlanta.
contact information if you want to get it. Also, to Jack Farrell's point about the USGA and women's golf, the CVB is working with the USGA on things, I don't know if you heard that part of.
did.
Okay, so you heard that. But also CVB might be interested in what you're doing with these promotions, because they might be able to get stuff on the air. So have you spoken with Phil Wirtz at the CVB?
They are one of our key partners in this event.
Okay, good.
So
Okay.
you all and the resort and the mayor were our first sit-down brainstorming session.
Okay.
But yes, I definitely want to get CVB involved.
Yeah, because if this could drive, what we're doing could drive people here, so they'd be interested in promoting it. But if you want Spencer Tunnell's contact information, let me know.
I will. Thank you.
He's fascinating. So yes, but first, please get the Yayata Olmstead.
I will.
That's it.
Lydia, remind me, how does his last name spelled, Spencer?
Tunnell?
I'm not sure I gave that to Kristen and Doug correctly anyway.
I have it
Guy in
more as
Atlanta.
Tinsel.
The man in Atlanta.
The man in Atlanta is who I have him in my brain under. But yes, I would love to have his contact information, not shared over the air, of course.
Tunnell.
Okay, now, as when we talked before, I knew Lydia would have the right information for that and impressions on the Olmstead side of this especially, along with Ross. Pat, did you have another
I
question?
just
here?
had
And I'll
one
make-
thought, and it may have already been thought about and dismissed. Is there any thought given to setting up sort of a citizens honorary celebration committee so we can get buy-ins from other people who they're in the golf business or they're, whatever it is, so that we get people to have more of a skin in the game, be it our local merchants or golf enthusiasts. I don't know how, you all probably know how to handle that and manage that. You never want to let it get out of control, but there's a lot of people, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Well, we're going to put you on this committee, and here's what we want you to do. So I tossed that out.
I gave some names to Kristen and Doug, people in the community that certainly know about Olmsted on the one hand and Ross on the other, and how we might begin to engage them. I don't think, but again, this is all for council discussion here. I don't think we want a committee that's lengthy or large. I think we need something that's focused and take direction from how the council sees this proceeding through the staff. But there are some key names locally that we would involve, both for Olmsted and Ross here, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, and if any of the council members, not even tonight, but anytime, if you have any ideas on someone we should be talking to, just let us know.
We have an exhaustive list, and I think that the positive and the negative to creating a committee, it would be huge, because we could not leave out anyone, because there's so many subject matter experts in this area, or fans, I would even call them, in this area for these two gentlemen. So I think that the mayor and I and Doug had talked about coming up with a plan, and we're getting through this, and then once we have a plan, then we'll say, this is, bring these folks together and say, this is how you can help us. This is what we need.
Assign people to do certain things.
Correct.
Yeah, that would be good. One of the things that I feel is important, but again, this is council discussion, is this is a much bigger opportunity than celebrating our 25th anniversary a year ago. But the same idea we had then, I'm not sure how I expressed it before, but it's on the lines of quality, not quantity, doing something that's impactful and educational. And in fact, when Doug and Kristen and I first sat down in October or whatever, the educational piece sort of jumped out, because I think, Lydia, as you and I have talked many times, there's a need in the community to educate people about the historic district, about Mr. Ross, Mr. Olmsted, Mr. Manning, who's the guy that did all the work here for Mr. Olmsted. But anyway, and so this is a real opportunity to do that. And I think these videos, these roaming Olmsted persons and roaming Ross persons, these are ways to educate people, working with the schools. So that, I think, is the ultimate objective here. That we need to celebrate, but we want to educate people, and hopefully that will create more interest and more knowledge of our community, and I think that's a good thing going forward.
I do too. Especially as we're developing, we're doing the small area planning and the parks plan, West Pinehurst Community Park. I think that the more that folks can understand where we came from, then we can create a better strategic plan moving forward.
Did you say you're trying to get into the schools as well? I mean, I just thought kids here could just get a minimal knowledge of our history. It'd be great.
Lydia, can you use your mic, please?
No, just asking about getting in the schools because you realize this is where you can plant the seed of what we have here.
Correct, and there's some great engagement that we can do, what would the trees say, if they could go back and, I've got some great ideas for some kid activities. Not so much curriculum, that would be a disaster to try to even start to do, but just some little engaging activities that we can do with the kids in our area, why are the roads so windy? This is why the roads are so windy. There's a purpose behind it. There was intent behind the master plan. So I think that there's opportunities for sure for children.
And I don't know if you've talked to the president of the National Association of Olmsted Parks, a resident at number 6. Okay, you have.
She mentioned that she knew you, I
Yes.
think, in one of our correspondence.
Okay.
Yes, we have spoken.
Okay, great, because she's been helpful.
Jane, Jeff Morgan over here, any thoughts, direction, comments?
Cocktail napkins.
Gotta have a good,
No, Jeff, don't shake your head.
I have a good themed cocktail napkin, that's for sure.
Does that mean cocktails come with them?
Yeah.
Resort?
You
You're gonna have to
take 'em
serve.
back and
There's a backstory here.
have them at your house, but people buy them.
I like that,
Okay.
Jeff. Jeff, any thoughts on this?
I just want to compliment Pat on his idea there with the TV. I think that's the Golf Channel. In line with that, we might want to look at who's carrying the Women's Open, because whoever's carrying the Women's Open, if they've decided it by now, they may be willing to do stuff on history of women's golf. And that's where some of the real money is, to be able to develop the stuff. And you never know if you get.
Jeff, that stuff is decided a long time ago.
Oh,
Yeah, but no, I mean, to your point, that we know who's carrying it. I don't know, but the USGA knows, I'm sure CVB knows. I mean, those contracts are set up multiple years at a time. I don't know who has it now, Fox, ABC, I don't know.
I've had some success in getting stuff on network before when it's related to whatever they're getting ready to do. So because they get the plug saying it's the U.S. Women's Open, okay?
Right.
And then you have it in Pinehurst. Love the VOP TV. Great thoughts on there. Certainly content is king, which is exactly what John was getting at. It's not a matter of quantity, it's a matter of quality of what's going on from there. The types of video and stuff you can do, I think that's with your volunteers, when we talk about, or committees or things like that. It's not just a matter of people coming up with good ideas. It's a matter of people doing the work. And it's a matter of, we've got some talent in our community that maybe they're willing to carry some water for us. I haven't run across too many problems in getting people with ideas. You need to work with these. The last thing on there is that you just might want to consider when you're talking about the authors and things like that, which I think is, again, is a great idea. And you've already contacted Weymouth. Weymouth is big with authors, Arts Council, music, things like that you have in our community that can probably assist, and it coincides with what their mission is. So just encourage that. That's all. I think it's a great idea.
Now, next steps are several, and we've talked a little bit about that, the three of us, but we need to get with the resort and kind of more formalize what their role wants to be in general and specific to Donald Ross. And then, as Kristen said, their ability to help with the video side of things, which they do quite routinely. I want to go back to the first page of the document. This logo of Mr. Olmstead is something that the Olmstead Society and the group that's organizing the national effort put together. I think I'm speaking for Kristen and Doug and myself. We didn't think this was particularly useful or helpful, so we may come up with something different as a logo for both the Ross and Olmstead banners and the display and this sort of thing. But
As a lover of art, I appreciate the uniqueness
The
of
abstract.
it. But I think when it has to complement our brand as well.
Yep.
And so if you look in that top left corner, the Olmstead 200, that is more, I feel like would translate better in our community. And I'm sure that every single element in this Olmstead portrait means something. And I would love to talk with whoever designed it to learn more about it. But I think when it comes to co-branding, that the Olmstead 200 would suit our brand a little better.
Right, rather than the abstract face, okay, with
Kids
other.
the kids are going to enjoy that one.
Might like
Yeah,
that.
kids
Well, that's
are-
right.
and
That's
there's
good.
coloring
That's a good
sheets that
point,
we can
yeah.
do in the schools. They've got the one good thing about Olmstead 200 is they have a exhaustive list of
Yeah.
materials for us to use for free. It's already created, there's thought behind it, and it's professional. So we can utilize things like that, but when it comes to the branding, I do think that the Olmstead 200 suits us better.
And since the Olmstead 200 planning and materials, as Kristen has said, is more advanced, and because his birthday is the first that we come to in April, that really helps us in getting the Olmstead piece put together and launched, and gives us a little more time to work with the resort and the Ross Society and what we'll do with Donald Ross. Not to separate them, but they will be separated a little bit through the year in a natural sense on that. So budget-wise, we don't really know exactly what we'll need, but some of these expenses are coming out of budgets that are already set up, I guess, Kristen, and we can talk with Jeff Sanborn and work out whatever other expenses we might have here. We should know a little bit more about that within the next month or two, I would guess, for sure. I
For
think by
sure, the
January.
month. I plan on launching at the end of January.
We'll be able to do that. So, council, this is good direction. Any misgivings, any changes as we go along? Just comment back, and we'll be hearing from these two and others. Maybe not at every council meeting, but perhaps we ought to plan to come back to the first or second, maybe the second council meeting in January, kind of see where we are, because by then we're in 2022 and the road starts to, the traffic speeds up going down the road. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Have fun with it.
We have a very talented staff. Yeah.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Okay. That takes me to the end of the agenda I have. Are there anything else council members wish to add on or plan for at our first meeting in January? Anything happening? We'll all be in touch, of course. Jeff? We're all set. Is there a motion to adjourn the work session?
Move to adjourn.
It's a motion by Jeff Morgan, a second by Pat Pizzola to adjourn the work session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Work session is adjourned. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.